Damas y caballeros, el siguiente video es una entrevista de Pixelatl con nada más y nada menos que el creador de Gravity Falls, Alex Hirsch, y el director de arte de Gravity Falls también, Ian Worrel. Disfruten la entrevista.
Hi, my name's Ian Worrel. I was the art director for Gravity Falls and Amphibia.
Hi, I'm Alex Hirsch. I'm the Gravity Falls guy.
First and foremost, Ian, your work is so expressive, colorful, and fun. Who are your biggest influences and references?
So, for my personal work, it's too big to give a list. Like, I'm inspired by all things, all media. So, games, movies, television. For Gravity Falls specifically, lots of inspiration. Simpsons is a big one. I cited things like Bill Watterson's Calvin and Hobbes for the look of the series, Bone, the comic, and then that was supposed to be a real, believable place. So the source, actual places like that, Oregon.
Alex, earlier this year you published a list of the weirdest things that the Department of Standards and Practices asked you to change inside Gravity Falls. So what advice would you give to the people that are struggling to fight for their creative freedom?
Sure, yeah. Well, I want to, be careful to clarify that, I don't want people to look at that video and think, oh, we should fight every single note, every single battle. I was picking and choosing some of the most comically ridiculous notes that I recall. Every network is different, and they're the ones paying for your project. So they can choose to pull the plug at any moment. And I'd say that, when I was making Gravity Falls, I knew that the show was popular. I knew that the show was beloved. I also knew it was really hard to make, and that I didn't want to make it if it wasn't good. So I felt that, I had enough leverage with the network. If they said, we want to change it into something that I won't be proud of, I'd say, well, I don't want to make something I won't be proud of. So it's not worth it for me. So when I would say, I'm not going to do this note, I will make these other changes. I will work with this, but there's some notes I refuse to do because it compromises what in my mind is the integrity of the series. I always had to balance, pick your battles, choose what's worth it to you. Don't fight every single note. Like executives, they're basically just a first audience. And even the standards practice department, they're a first audience, and collectively their feedback can be very valuable. But you always kind of have to know your own personal, what's the line you cannot cross, or else it'll stop being the series that I care about. So I sort of figured that out internally. And then the other advice I would give would be that a lot of the times the standards and practices department at these networks don't really care about the note they're giving. They just want to justify their job. They know that if they don't give any notes, they'll get fired. They're like a meter maid who just has to give a certain amount of tickets. So oftentimes, if you push back with a reasonable response, I showed some of my less reasonable responses, but sometimes you have to think like a lawyer, you know what I mean? And you have to say, I've seen you guys air this previously on your network, so I know it's all right. So pick your battles and sometimes be a lawyer, and only really be hard-headed if you're tired and you're willing to get fired off rip.
2022 has been a strange year and very insecure for animation, with all these streaming services and enterprises emerging and the budget cuts. So I would like to ask you how we can cope to this strange and uncertain future that we are having in the industry.
Yeah, band together and overthrow the government and create a socialist utopia. No, I mean, we don't know the future. We're riding this wave just the same way you all are.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, the animation industry before my time has seen these ups and downs.
Yeah.
This is not new, and so I'm trusting the process that we'll also figure this out, and that we should continue to do what we do best, create things, and it will be okay. This is not new. It's just a different kind of disruption.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that, there's all these cancellations happening. It's really brutal and it's poorly managed. And I think a lot of creators or would-be creators could think, well, yeah, this has never happened before. This is the worst thing in the world. But, if you were pitching an animated television series to Fox in 1999, 9 out of 10 of those shows got canceled. They'd air one episode, they'd cancel them. It was very, very common in the history of television. Most shows, most pilots are canceled. So the fact that we're experiencing all these mass cancellations now, it is bigger and more public, but it's part of a trend. Sometimes, when we were going to college, the class above us, nobody was hiring in animation. And then the year that we graduated, suddenly everybody was hiring again. It ebbs and flows. And I'll say the most important takeaway, I believe, is even though in order to create animation, because it's expensive, it usually requires collaborating with these big studios, and they have the money, so it feels like they have the power. Never forget, they need us. They need us. Every studio, Pixar, Disney, HBO, studios we haven't heard of, without us, without animators, without writers, they will fall apart. Their empire will crumble. All of their money is built on the backs of us, the creators. And so even though they have a lot of power, if we all just stop making stuff, they'd all go bankrupt. So it's just important to remember that they will always need our contributions. People will always want our stories. And even though the industry will rise and fall, good work is good work. So focus on being the best you can be. And, you can't depend on the industry, you can depend on yourself. And eventually they're going to need what you create. So create something great. Hey, hi, I'm Alex. If you want to see my random midnight insomnia thoughts, follow me at _Alex Hirsch on Twitter. And I'm working on secret projects that I can't talk about.
I'm also working on secret projects. I'm sorry. Tune back in.